Welcome to Go Learning Point tutorial. In our last session, we discussed about what is with clause in Oracle and what are the advantages of using with clause. So in this session, we will see how this is used practically in Oracle, or in which situation the with clause will be useful and how it actually makes an impact on the performance of a SQL query. So we'll take an example of a table. So I have a table called employee, and in this I have this data. So these are my employee IDs, employee names, and these are their managers, corresponding managers. These are their corresponding department numbers, and this is my manager ID. So this is my employee, it's the manager name, and this is the manager's employee ID. Now consider a situation if I want to know that for each employee, how many other people are there working in the same department. So let's say if I take an example of the employee 101 is working in department number 10, and in the same department there is also one more employee 105. So I want to get the employee list and the employee count working in the same department. So if I take an example of this, the 101 will be having the employee count in the same department as 2, and the 30 will be having 1, all 40 records will be having employee count in the same department as 3, and 50 will be having 2. Okay, so we'll see how this will be done using a simple query and how this will be done using with clause. So using simple query, my SQL will look like this. So what I have done in this is my subquery. So I have used a subquery to get the count in each of the department. Okay, so this particular query will fetch the total number of employees working in all the departments, each of the departments. So let's just try to execute this and see what results we would get. So in the employee number, department number 10, there are 2 employees. Department number 30, there is only 1 employee, and so on. Okay, now this result set I'll be using in my outer query. So my outer query will be joined with the department ID to get the further details. So let's try to execute this and see what we get as a result. So if you see, I have got the employee name and the total number of employees working in the same department as this employee, and same for other employees as well. Now, what if you want to do this using with clause? We'll be using a common table expression. So what we will do, we will change this subquery to common table expressions, or to a inline view, or to a temporary table. Now, how this query will look like using with clause. This is my result from the first query, and using with clause it will look like this. So I have used a with clause, and this is my alias name that we've already discussed. I have given this particular result set as alias department count that I'll be using in my final query. So this is my final query where I'll be using this result set department count, and then I'll be joining it with the main table to get the results. So to get the employee name and the number of employees working in the same department. Right. So this particular query is going to fetch the department ID, and the number of employees working in the same department will be stored in this particular table, same as subquery. Okay, and then this will further be joined with the main table, same as above query. So the only difference is here we are using this particular reference only once, but in a complex scenario, in complex situation, what will happen that this particular result set will be used multiple times in my final query. So let's just try to execute this and see if we're getting the same result or not. So if you see, we have got the same result set. Now let's consider some more complex scenario where we want to get this is my employee name and this is the employee count working in the same department as this employee, right? What I want to get the manager name of this employee and the total number of employees working in the same department as his manager. So if I take an example of this table, if I consider this record, so this particular employee is working in department number 10. This particular employee is having manager as this, and his manager is having department ID as 40. And I want to get the total number of employees working in this particular department as well. Okay. So let's see how this will be done using a simple query, and then we will change that to common table expression. Now, how my simple query will look like in this particular scenario is I have to get the department. So if you see, I have to get the employee name and the number of people are working in his department, and then his manager name and number of employees working in his manager's department, right? So what I have done, I have used the employee table 2 times. One is for employee and one is for manager. Okay. Now the same result set. This is something is going to give me the department number and the total number of employees working in their department, right? So this particular result set will be joined with this table to get the total number of employees working in the same department as that employee, and this particular result set will be joined with this particular table to get the number of employees working in the same department as their manager's department, right? So if you see, if you focus on this particular part, is same as this. So I have used the same set of query multiple times in my final SQL, right? So this is going to get executed 2 times in this particular scenario. Now let's see what results we are going to get from this particular SQL. Is the employee name, the count of employees in his department, then his manager name, and the count of the employees working in his manager's department, right? So let me just pin this particular result, and let's try to change these multiple references to a single reference using with clause or common table expression. So using a with clause, this particular query would look like this. So this particular reference that is actually giving me the department ID and total number of employees working in that department will be used as an inline view or a temporary table. So if you see, we have used this only once, whereas in this particular simple query, the usual query is using this particular section 2 times, right? So here I have used this particular result set as a common table expression department count, and then this particular result set will be used in my final query. So here I'll be using 2 set of this particular common table expression. One is for the department, one is for the employee, and it's the total number of employees working in employee department number, and then another is for their manager's department number, and to get the total number of employees working in his manager's department ID, right? Let's just try to execute this and see if we get the similar result or not. So if you see, we have got the same result as we have got from using simple query, and this result is after using the with clause. Now to get some more detail, you can go to my blog, that is tips for oracle.blogspot.com, and you can just search for the with clause on the home page, and you'll be able to find everything that we have discussed, plus few more examples and few more things that we can do using with clause in Oracle. So we can also use it inside the insert statement. It's just that that with clause will be used in the select statement. Then we can use it while updating data into the database, and we can use it while using upsert, that is the merge statement as well, right? So you can just go through the tutorial that we have discussed today, and you can just go through this particular block section as well. And thanks for watching my tutorial, and like, share and subscribe to get more updates.